flip the board and let's get a repertoire with the black pieces.
Yeah. Yes, please.
So you've been playing different things. So for example, oh wow, you had a lot of games with the white pieces. I'm going to invite you to another board.
Sure.
Okay, invite selected. All right, flip it so that we have black. This, whoa. So you played e4, e5, and you played f5. Whoa, where did you get this inspiration?
I'll be honest, I don't remember.
You just came up with this?
I think my plan was to go here and then I'd be able to recapture.
It's yes, actually yes, very much yes. So you just got to be a little bit careful in the beginning of the game. Playing this aggressively can backfire. So for example, there's different situations where white can just like, because they have a lead in development, they just lash out with a move like that, and it can be really scary if you play this wrong. Because what will happen is you'll just get pieces flying at you from all directions. But this is a very good idea. So the biggest thing that a lot of beginners struggle with when they start out is that playing e4, e5 as black sucks. Because you don't get the advantage of the first move, and all the same pressure that you learn to apply with white, you now have to deal with black. So your options then are, after knight f3, well, first of all, your options are not to play e5, but there's nothing wrong inherently with e5. A way to open up the position very quickly with the black pieces, have you know about the Scandinavian defense with d5?
Yep.
So I will give this as an option to you if you'd like to mess around with it. It will be just brief. Essentially, if I leave my pawn here, you will take it. And if I take you, you will bring your queen out, which is fine. So go ahead, bring your queen out. And essentially the rule is this. If I attack your queen, you move it to the side of the board. So if I attack it on my next move, for example, knight c3, move the queen to the side, and then just develop and castle queenside. So something like, there is some knight c6 positions, bishop f5, bishop g4. This is, completely reasonable and okay variation, and it will give you easy games. Because what it'll do is it'll castle your king. And you remember last time I explained the philosophy of playing an opening with black? You're getting into a small subcategory of what white has seen before, right? That's sort of the point, because when white plays e4, white has seen e5 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So you play d5, takes. I can attack your queen. You bring the queen here. And just so it has a getaway path back this way, you can play like something like this, for example. So watch. I develop my bishop. Develop your knight. And then you will bring this bishop out to one of these two squares. Let's say I play knight f3. You can choose. I will let you choose.
For the bishop?
Yeah, you can choose either or.
I think this is what I've been doing.
I like it. And by the way, you're happy to trade, because what's going to happen is you'll replace your pawns on light squares. You understand that? Like, you trade your light squared bishop, so you restructure on the light squares, because you don't have a light squared guard.
Okay, I have not heard that before.
Okay.
But, okay, so you're okay trading this, even though that brings out the queen.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. So you just need to be a little bit careful in Scandinavian with something like this. So you should develop your pawn here, or if you're feeling fancy your knight. The reason I like the pawn, your queen always has a way home. Otherwise, some people put the knight, their queen gets stuck. So c6 is perfectly fine. Something like this. By castle, you can play e6. Better than e5. Why? Why is this better to be on this square?
Well, it's not. This pawn isn't defended here. There's a defender here.
It's defended with the queen, but it's yeah, you're right. It's a little loose. Could be very easy target for the rook, for example. So yes, e6 is better. Notice that you're blocking out this guy. The bishop.
This?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then you'd bring out your knight, and you can either castle queenside. if you'd like to start some sort of big attack on this side of the board. Or you can castle short, and you're fine. And you have a longer game. So this is a more open board. Why is it open? There's really very few pawns in the center, which means that the pieces are taking control of the center, fighting for positioning, and so on. Scandinavian is very simple. It's quite literally, if they take, if they attack, you move there. If they don't attack, quick development with your pieces, and queenside castle. Like, you can learn it within 2 minutes. Then you build your experience. Somebody said, what if white doesn't take on d5? So obviously, if white pushes, you want to play e6 to then develop your bishop, but then you would block in this guy, so you should probably play bishop f5.
Okay. So, oh, I see. So play it first, and then bring this out so that
yes,
your bishop isn't locked in.
Yes, gotcha. And another common idea. So you could go ahead, play bishop f5, which does happen. If you play this in this position, the only drawback, obviously, is you don't get this natural move.
Yeah,
which is fine. That is one of the I guess byproducts of this. So if d4, what you're gonna try to do is use a pawn break to chip away at the center. You'll try to play this. You can't right now because it's free. You play this.
Oh, and now that's not free. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna show you one more concept. So play c5. We're gonna kind of get through this entire thought process. Bishop b5 is not a scary check. You just block. Nothing complicated about that.
Okay.
Just block it. The toughest thing in this position is the development of this knight. Because again, you can't go here, and in a perfect world, you would play f6 and they would take you and they would help you, right? But that's not going to happen.
So what do you do in an imperfect world?
Yes, in an imperfect world. In an imperfect world, we have to take a couple moves to develop this knight. So what we'll do is we'll go here, and oftentimes we'll either go this way, or we even bring the knight back that way so we can develop our bishop and castle. And then we slowly expand on the queen side. So what does that mean, expand on the queen side? It means bring our pawns out.
Mm-hmm.
Use our space advantage. Where do we have the most space? Here. Because white controls this, we can't really develop easily. And so that's kind of the way we do it. If I gave you 2 more moves to increase your pressure on that pawn, what would you do? So you've got pressure here. Make another move that hits this pawn.
This one. Right, this attacks the pawn, and then...
Yep.
You want 2 moves?
No, knight c6 is a good start. I like it. I like it. And then so now you have 2 things hitting this pawn.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do this, in a lot of positions here, you can bring the queen. Oops, sorry. You can bring the queen. More pressure.
Okay.
Now let's think about it like this. This is going to be your target. So you've got 1 hit here, 2 guards. Oftentimes, you'll use this bishop, move it 1 more time, and remove the defender. Let's just play bishop g4. It's like, well, hold on a second. I don't understand what that... Why is this move so useful? I already developed some of my pieces, so how can that move possibly be useful? Remember this knight?
Mm-hmm.
If we go knight here, how can that knight also add pressure to this pawn?
It can go up here.
Yes. So our position is very closed, which allows us more maneuvering. We can move the bishop out of the way, put the knight there, take this knight, and now white loses a defender of the center.
Okay.
So e5 is an annoying move in the Scandinavian. Oops, sorry. e5 is a little bit of an annoying move. What we do is we offset that by slowly building up the position with e6, c5, knight c6, and so on. And we're really going to go for this d4 pawn. So, and somebody said, is it a bad idea to develop the bishop to g4 at the start? Yes, because you'll lose the bishop. So in this position, you don't have a move that maximizes your flexibility. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if you play this, that's it. You killed your option to go bishop f5.
Mm-hmm.
If you play knight c6, you can't go c5 anymore. So the only thing that you can play is this move. That is the only move that maintains, because you're going to play this anyway, right?
Yeah.
You're going to play c5 anyway, then you'll play knight c6. So for example, if I play knight f3, now you can just skip it. You can go directly to pinning this knight.
Okay.
If you'd like to, right? So we can develop these pieces. But I'm just trying to show you the structure that could arise if they don't take, if they just push. Now, some people I've seen do this because they pre-move it, then they just lose a pawn. So that is, that is a tragic, that's a tragic thing that can happen. If they do this, you take, and by the way, didn't we just look at a queenless position?
Yeah.
So this is nothing you're afraid of.
Okay. So you like the trading the queens if it gives you
Yes.
it kills the castling rights.
Yes, it's not like you're winning, but there's no reason not to do it because now you have all the advantages in the position. It's like you're playing white.
Okay.
So I've also seen this, which is kind of funny. I'll show this to you. Just one more thing. Knight c3. You can take. You can put your queen out. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? They just go back, right? It's the exact same position.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. So it's basically as if it was takes, here. Except we included 2 more moves.
So where would you go from here? You'd go to the side again?
Mm-hmm. Queen to the side and continue with the c-pawn move, the bishop out, knight, try to queenside castle. Somebody also asked me, and this is actually very common. This might make you laugh. This is a pretty common move in these positions. Because from here, your queen is no longer a target. And sometimes people feel more safe retreating this way and then just developing normally. If the question is, why would you play this? Like, why would you lose a move in the beginning of the game with your queen compared to just a normal king's pawn position, right? Like, why in this one you get something totally different? It's because these positions that arise after the king's pawn meet, you're relying on whatever white does, now you need to respond with. But when you enter this sort of territory, the structure of the position is different. It's a completely open board. So there's, like I told you already, there's nothing in the center. And your pieces are free to go wherever they want. You can castle which way you want, etc., etc. So the nature of the position is much more open than it is in an e4, e5 game. Your Scotch that you play with d4, you're trying to get an open game. That's what you're trying to do. But because you have the advantage of the first move, you don't actually, your queen isn't the target in the center, if that makes sense. So that's one of the reasons I like the Scandinavian as one weapon. Now, I also wanted to give you, just within e4, e5 itself, some options. So if knight f3, your most flexible second move is always going to be knight c6. But there is another very tricky system you can investigate called the Stafford Gambit. Have you ever heard of that?
I think I remember you at one point explaining it to me. Is that this one?
No, that's the Latvian Gambit. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Latvian, the way you play it is very with this f5, it's just very aggressive, but it can backfire very quickly. And I don't want to give you, some absolute garbage which will work 1 times out of 10.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So the Stafford Gambit then. How do I do that?
Stafford Gambit is by far more legitimate, and essentially the only thing is it's not guaranteed. Essentially, you copy, and they have to take. They have to take. If they don't take, if they just go here, you got to go back to your regular stuff. Like, it's just 4 knights. So that's the only drawback. But if they do take your pawn, you play knight c6. So go ahead, play knight c6.
Okay, sure.
So First of all, do you know what a gambit is? It's a good starting point. What is a gambit?
I always thought that a gambit meant a sacrifice.
That you always thought correctly.
Oh, okay.
A gambit is when early on you sacrifice a pawn, 2 pawns, sometimes more, and you get some sort of big attack on your opponent. It's easier to do with white because you have the advantage of the first move. When you play gambits with black, very often they are very bad. They are like, if white plays like a computer, white should win.
Okay.
Now, if you get somebody who plays like a computer, you report them, they get banned most likely. You know, but at the highest of levels, it's at like some grandmasters, they can't afford to play gambits because they will simply run into trouble. But in this position, you now have, you kind of have like the open lines here.
Yeah.
You also, by the way, do you understand why you would take with the D pawn and not with the B pawn?
You like freeing up this lane for the queen?
I like freeing up the lane. I also like opening up the light squared bishop.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
So so first things first. What happens if white plays e5? Just attacks your knight.
Okay. I'd run away and go maybe here.
So knight d5 is okay. There's very dangerous approaches to the position as well. Like you can play, for example, knight g4, and essentially what you're going for with knight g4 is that if white plays too passively, something like queen e2, that's what you're looking at. How do you attack that pawn? A second time.
This.
Yeah, and by the you're just winning.
Okay.
Like you're literally winning on the spot.
How do you figure? So what do you mean?
There's
Like
no way. There's no way to
position?
guard that. Yep. There's just no way to guard this.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. Just GG. You take. So for instance, h3. Check this out. Take on f2 with check. King d1. Check again. Can't take you.
Oh my, that is dirty.
Yeah,
That's
and then
dirty.
they gotta lose their queen. They gotta lose their queen, and that's it. You're just double
Why?
queen. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah. So there's there is this. The drawback of knight g4 is that again, if white knows what they're doing, there's this. That is the best move. And if you can get really aggressive here, like queen h4. But again, if white just kind of plays solid, that's not going to work.
Okay.
That's not going to work. But you do have that option. Knight d5 is the more stable move. Knight e4 doesn't really attack anything, and d4 is still considered the best move here. So I don't like this because there's a little bit less of a trap. Like for instance, d3, it's all traps. You still go bishop c5.
Really?
Yeah, because if takes, whoops, teleported. If takes, oops. And you lose the queen again.
Oh, okay. It's like they just and that, but yeah, okay. There's so many ways to get the queen from.
Yes, and how do you win? How do you win the queen if this happens?
This one?
Yeah, GG. So you can win. You can win. There's a lot of traps. They have to stabilize the center with d4. They can't go chasing you. Somebody said, what if f3? Again, queen h4. These 3 moves are going to be your bread and butter. And by the way, I think bishop c5 is winning here as well. Because of this. So first of all, they can literally walk into mate, which would be nice.
Oh, yikes. Yeah.
Imagine winning like this in 8 moves. I want to see this in the future.
I do. I really want to try this now because this is an opening I at least saw a fair bit of, as opposed to the fried liver.
Yeah, you can also not move your knight at all and play queen e7, pinning the pawn. Now, if white plays something like queen e2, you do have to move your knight. You at this point have no more choice. But This is protecting everything. Now, if you don't want to do anything insane and just play knight d5, your goal here is going to be, and chasing you is not going to be very good. Again, aggressive gambit style, knight b4. Trying to jump in here.
Yeah.
Look at this. So again, remember this d4 thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could just take that. Because if this, what happens?
This one.
You win the pawn back, you win this, you short, you long castle, life is good. I mean, you get the bishop out and so on. So, yeah. So this is a very venomous opening. The problem is that it doesn't have to happen, you know.
Yeah,
and then,
so you're saying it kind of loses to just bringing this one out whenever you start going on your attack.
Yeah, but again, up until a certain level, that might not be well known. So white will always have the advantage, but just because an opening is bad doesn't mean that it's not incredibly fun and you can still win a lot of games in it. So the only thing is that computers take the fun out of it. Because back before we knew that certain openings were solved, certain gambits were very fun. So the Stafford Gambit is extremely, it's extremely dangerous. But its drawback is, yes, if they consolidate the right way, then... We also only looked at e5, so if they play something like knight c3, remember this move?
Yeah.
Alright, so again, bishop c5, with ideas to come here, queen d4, bishop g4, knight g4, all these different attacking possibilities you gotta think about. You can't just like sacrifice a pawn early and say, alright, well, now I'm gonna play solid. We're going straight for mate. Like, that's literally what we're going for. Just try to crush.
Okay.
Quick castle. You'll be down a pawn, and let me just tell you one more thing. The engine will hate it. So...
It'll yell at me and say, blunder, blunder, blunder.
Yes, it's going to say this is a bad move, and so on and so forth, but that's like, that's one of the drawbacks of actually engine analysis early on, is folks don't quite understand, and when you take them out of their comfort zone, they've got to think on their own. It's not so simple to do that. So we looked at, obviously, if you get attacked, if the knight comes out, these are the most common. If this comes out, again, still bishop c5 is good, bishop g4, and try to castle quickly, and always looking at sacrifices. Now, for example, already here, remember this? And deflecting the king away from the queen.
Oh, right.
So, like, this is really vicious, man. There's a lot of venom to it, but I also did want to give you a standard way of playing to throw in this f5 thing that you like to play, because it's actually a legitimate weapon. It's not bad at all. I like it a lot. I actually just had a game entitled Tuesday that I played, which is this tournament that happens once a week. A lot of strong players. It didn't start with a king spawn. Let me just clear this all out for us. It didn't start with a king spawn, but it quickly became a king spawn position. So I started out like this. d3, knight c6, and you see how now it's king spawn?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he played knight c3, and I played bishop b4. And this is literally what you did to that other player.
Yeah.
Up, here, castle. So if you want to play like this, you're more than welcome to, but you notice how the bishop is not here?
Yeah, it's locked in there.
Yeah, so it's a little more dangerous to do this, but this is the better move in this case than bishop here, because you need to destabilize the center. That's the point. You need to take this when you have a chance. Like, for example, this, you're taking, and then you're just going to replace your pawn, because now white loses an important protector of the center.
Yeah.
Then you develop. Yep, and then you get your active line. So, for example, I just had a game that went like that, but e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, let's say bishop c4. So, against this, you're going to have some difficulties getting this sort of thing, f5. But if you play, for instance, bishop c5, remember last time I showed you this pawn expansion?
I don't remember that. I'll be honest.
No, it's okay. It also is mirrored. It's essentially like you can't play into the fried liver. Like, you can't play into the fried liver.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually going to show you now a weapon against the fried liver. Are you ready?
Yes.
So you're going to play knight f6 as if you're playing stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say they enter it. Now again, if they just play solid, they just want to develop their pieces early on in the game. They don't want to challenge you based on your setup. Like I said, they're just calmly moving. What I recommend if you want to start attacking them, go for a queenside castle. So what that looks like is you'll play h6 early. So for instance, h6, because what does that prevent?
The fried liver.
It prevents anything from coming to g5. So it prevents the fried liver, and in the future, it also prevents me from pinning you.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So early h6 by black, then you develop normally. Do you know what else this is going to do once you castle this way? You're going to play g5. You're going to go for some crazy stuff.
Okay.
So you're going to start your own pawn attack on their castled king while you go the other way. So if you castle the other way, it would look... How would you, prepare your development to try to castle queenside?
I probably bring this up and bring this out.
It's a little better to do it like this with d6. I'll show you why in a second.
Okay.
So d6, go ahead. d6. Some people will offer you this trade. Now, what I'm about to show you is that you don't want to take, because what are you doing? You're just opening up their rook for the future.
Okay.
Instead, you see this? Slide back.
Why not just leave it there? Because it's protected still.
Yes, it's a small concept, but very important to remember. It's about pawn structure. This way, your pawns stay together.
Okay.
Even though you're doubling these pawns, they're staying together, the center is protected, and they kind of control this area of the board. If you were to leave the bishop there and just develop this guy, and what happens is you double your pawns.
Mm-hmm.
And to defend this pawn, you need to push this pawn. Okay, so just like... And if you push this pawn, where do you lose stability? 4 dark squared pawns. Something's weak.
Yeah, now they can mess me up with their light square bishop. And yeah.
So this structure isn't losing by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a little bit less stable than if you just slide the bishop back. Slide the bishop back a square, be like, dude, you can take me, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to be opening the position for you. You want that to happen. So something like this. Now we bring this, and we try to long castle. So queen up, and then try to castle queenside. I'm just making, basic improving moves for white, just etc., etc. Now is when you have your fun. So if you don't necessarily get your crazy gambit, what you do is you get opposite side castling, and you don't have to play these boring same side castling maneuvering games that you don't really know where to do, and etc., etc. Here, the game plan's very simple. Destroy them. Just destroy them. Go on